Okay, so in the last session, we have gone through the Fusion tax configuration as well as we tested by passing one invoice in payables. Right, we created invoice and calculated tax based on the configuration whatever we did. And the next we'll work on Fusion expense. We'll see in today's session Fusion expense configuration and expense report creation and invoice creation based on expense report. Before we get into this Fusion expense, I want to just go back to AP. I think I'm not sure. A few guys asked the check format related configuration. I think Armstrong is the one, and anyway, that is it's a very I mean key concept which you have to include in the course, but I just forgot to include in the course. Anyway, there was some question raised on that, so that also I'm just going to show you. I'll just call it as payment format. Okay.
Lakshman,
Yep.
on that EB tax, will we be testing the AR part also?
No. See, that is enough. The same configuration, and you have to how the preferences you require. You can set it up, and you can try on that.
Enable for receivables and try.
Already we enabled. We enabled when we are just doing the configuration. We enabled, but only since we set location based. What you can do is based on that the ship to location and all you can take accordingly. When you take the ship to location whatever we define, then system will calculate the tax for that. Accordingly you have to create which tax is applicable for receivables. That's how you have to create. That's all. Configuration remains same. Okay, so that's it. So today's session, first what we'll do is first we'll see the payment formats. Okay, how to define the payment formats. Then once we complete it, we'll work on Fusion expense today. So when I talk about payment format, we know in EBS or Fusion, we are not going to modify the payment format. That will be done by technical people who are just expertised on the BA publisher related work, right? They have to write simple uh, queries to set alignments, how the the format need to be printed on the respective stationery, right? Here also remains same. But the point is in EBS case, if you want to see the template, we'll go to the payment administrator. There we have the templates. We have a task. We can navigate to the task from there. You can download the template, and once the template related information is uh, modified as per the check format, so against that we can create the format definition, and we can take that, we can assign it to bank account level, I mean to say documents level. The same we can select at the time of payment process request definition. In case of Fusion, where we can find those templates, we'll see that first. Okay, so first we'll see where we can find those templates and how to create our own template definition. Okay, and how to create the formats, final how to assign, we'll see all this process. So it can be check format or any format. That is the reason just I taken as a payment format. So it's templates. Okay. First what we have to do is, so what are the server you are using, sorry, what are the server you are using, you copy up to here. Okay, the server, the name and the port number, whatever you have, just you let me log in and I'll show you that. Just log into the instance. Now here, after this .com, just copy up to here. Directly I can type in this URL itself, but I'm just taking the note here. Here you have to write XLMP server. So this is the URL you have to use. That means here I'm going to remove the rest of URL, whatever I can see here. Here write XMLP server. Enter. Okay. So BA Publisher Enterprise. Once you navigate here, go to catalog. Just click on catalog. Okay, click on catalog. After that, here we have a shared folder. We have a shared folders in the left. So there, just go to financials. Here we have financials. Expand this folder and go to payables. Okay, here we have directly payments. Go to payments. Instead of expanding this, select it. Once you select, within that, what are the payment related formats we have, all you can see here. See, we have different formats. Disbursement. Okay, accompanying letter format and different formats we have. You can just go through it. These all are the different formats which we use for payments purpose. Okay, the positive pay file format, and different formats we have. Now we are going to work on check format. Okay, we know by default Oracle provides standard. The same standard one we can modify and we can use as per our requirement. How many different format of checks we have, those many formats we can define, and that's how we'll be using. So now we'll see the what is the process we have to follow. Okay, these are the different formats available. Now we'll go with the check format. Here we have disbursement payment file format. Okay, disbursement payment file format. This is a seeded one. We should not do any changes to seeded one. What we have to do, we have to make a copy to this. For the copied definition, in the copied definition you can do what are the changes you want to do. So what we have to do is click on edit. Just click on edit. No, 1 second. No, it's not edit here. 1 second. Because we don't want to modify directly, right? So that won't be good practice also. So we don't want to modify directly. This you have to make a copy. You have to go with the custom options. So payment here we have, and this is the format. So go to more. Go to more. Just click on customize. Okay, click on customize. Once you click on customize, okay, the copy will get saved in the custom folder. It's opening. Even if I click on customize also, just it is opening the same folder, but you don't need to get into this folder. Just click on back. Okay, once you click on custom, the copy will get saved in the custom folder. You can just go back to the custom folder. Here in the shared folder you can see one folder called as custom. You expand this. Simple point, once you click on custom, it will copy the same template into a custom folder. By default, you will be having this custom folder. Go to financials, select payments. It's the only one because I think seems to. One second, let me remove this. Yeah, I'll show you this once again because seems to somebody did that already before we try with that. The process is go to financials, select payments. This is the format. Click on more, click on customize. It's not responding. Click on more, then click on customize. Once you click on customize, the same template will be copied into custom folder. Now we have to go to custom folder. Just click on back. Click on expand. Expand financials. Select payments. Now you can see here. The same template is copied here. You can see created by Fusion, our current user. Okay, done. Now what we have to do is we just click on edit. Click on edit. The payment related, what are the different formats we have, all you can see here. Just click on edit. This is the copied one, which is part of custom folder. Here you can find all the templates. You can just go through all these templates. Okay, these all are different seeded templates. Okay. Now say we have a for check standard check format, right? Go to that. Here we have a standard check which Oracle provided as seeded format. Okay. Here if you want to modify this, click on edit. So system is downloading RTF file. You can save on the desktop. Just say okay, it will open. You can save on the desktop. Save in RTF file format. You know, if you are technically expertised, okay, with a BI publisher, you can go and change all these alignments, right? How the check should be printed and what is the height and width, and the payee name should start after how many characters space, and everything you can go and specify if you are good at that XML publisher related programming. Okay, so done. Think just the technical person did require changes to the template. Now what we have to do is by using that RTFC, this is the one just we placed on the desktop. Okay, it's not saved as RTF. I'll just change set that format to RTF. Yes. Okay, save the RTF format. So after downloading from this task will be done by technical people. So they'll do the required changes. Okay, they should have a BI publisher in their system and they can go and do alignments. Everything they'll do that. Once they complete what we have to do. Once the template is ready with a proper format, okay, sorry. Now that same we have to upload here and we have to give the definition. So these you can, so now 1 second here. This is a view, okay, thumbnails format. You just go with the, okay, view a list. All you can see as a list. The same templates here we are able to see as a list. View a list. Now once the template is ready with the required changes, okay, which should be done by that technical expertise, you have to add the template here. Okay, just click on create, and here we have upload or generate layouts. Here we have to upload the template which is modified by us as per our requirement, how we want to print the checks. Just click on upload, and here give the layout name. The layout name itself I'm giving Fusion Bank check layout. Okay, just provide layout name and select the layout which is formatted as per our requirement. Click on browse, and select that RTF file. Type is RTF template, and localate. I mean, it's all about language. You have to select local language. Just type English United States. You can select. Yeah, here we have. Okay, English United States. Select and say upload. Okay, after uploading that, you can just click on save. And again, you can go with a view list, because if you go with a view list, there you can see the properties also, output and all. So click on view a list, the list format, you can see all this. Now whatever we created is Fusion Bank check format. It will come from last. Yeah, so this is the one. So here you can just this is all these format system is selecting by default. Okay, by default it is selecting just all this PDF and RTF, so that any one of the format you can print it. So that's all. Here you may just give the PDF. I'm selecting the PDF format, but here already system defaulted. I'm selecting default format as PDF. Then you can save it. Okay. Okay, the template name what we given is Fusion Bank Check Layout. Okay, then save it. That's all. Now you can just go to that application environment. Now go to functional setup manager, or you can go to your project. Okay, against the template we have to define the format now. Okay, let me write here. This is URL we have to use. Any server After server name slash the XLMP server. Okay, this is different from BI. It's related to BI family only, but not BI publisher. So BI publisher, that's the reports, and this is for separate path for templates. Okay, first say create template, then say create formats. Format. After creating that, you may create payment process profile. This is the one other one you will be selecting at bank account level also, right? The documents. Select format for documents. Okay, here when you are creating also you can do that. We'll see one by one. Okay, now we'll see how to create the format. So directly it's not mandatory we have to do this task from the project. From outside of the project also we can do that. Here you can search with the task called as manage formats. Okay, just click on this task. It is taking too much time. Let me refresh this. Then click on this task. Okay, here you can just select this one, disbursement payment file formats. Select this in the select type field, select this format name and click on create. I'll say Fusion bank check format. Okay, Fusion bank check format. Check. Okay, here you have to select the BI publisher template. So we given the name as Fusion, right? Here we have that layout, template layout. So Fusion bank check layout. Okay, so that's all. Then say save and close. Now this at the time of bank account definition will create the documents, right? The document definition we can select this. That is the one place where we have to select document creation type. Other definition is payment process profile definition time. Also, we will be selecting this. But these two cases, when we defined, we selected standard. Now we'll just go on to verify from there. Okay, go to our bank account. Manage bank accounts. So search for our bank account. Fusion corporate account. Click on edit. If you scroll a little down, here you can see the payment documents which you prepared. Select, click on edit. Here you can see we selected standard. To change to whatever we created, you can change. Fusion bank check format. This is how we'll be selecting. This is a process which we have to follow. Okay. So other place is payment process profile definition time. Also, we'll be selecting that. So manage payment process profiles. We created like Fusion payment process profile. Click on edit. So here we selected standard check format, right? Here also you may replace. Okay. So this is all about the process how just we can create the format and how we can map. Okay. That's all about check format. Okay.
Lakshman,
Yeah.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Okay, we do like as a in check printing, we have the maker font, right? So we are registering the maker font as the exam publisher administration in 11 or 12. How we are going to register the maker font in Fusion?
See, see that should be done by the technical team only. We cannot go and do that. Only our part is just how to create the, I mean, how to create that template. The template format will be designed by the technical team as per our the the printing requirement. How we have the alignment and rest what process we have to follow that I'm trying to show. Okay, so this is what we have to do. Just whatever I did, the same I'm sharing with you. Okay, fine. So other part here, fusion expense. Okay, so we'll talk about fusion expense here in the as a part of fusion expense. What we are going to see is just I'll take you through what are the basic configuration we have to complete for fusion expense, and I'll will set up some approvals in case of fusion fusion expense. Definitely we should try with the supervisory approval where employee will create the expense report that will route to the manager for approval. That configuration will be doing through BPM. So in a previous when we tested payables approvals, we used approval group, but now we are going to test supervisory approval concept, how we can configure, and then that will goes to the manager. Once manager is approved, that information will be processing and will be interfacing to payables. From payable, we can go and find the invoice against that expense report, and we'll take it for payment. So this is what we are going to see as a part of vision expense. Just let me take you through the setups first. Okay. All right. Fusion expense configuration. Okay, fine. So setups, very few setups we have to perform. Okay, the first point here is, say, configure system options. For Fusion expense we have a system options. Okay, we have to configure the system options. Once we're done with that, we can create the templates, say expense report templates. Okay, so these are very basic setups. After that, what is our test plan? Accordingly we have to work on it. Now what we'll do is, we have already existing user called as Fusion. We'll create one more user called as Fusion Manager. And this username is Fusion Manager. This user will assign to Fusion user as is the manager for Fusion user. Okay, that means we'll create the relationship between these two user called Fusion, manager is Fusion user. This relationship we have to create in the system. Okay, for that what we'll do is, as a process, just already we have one user called as Fusion user. We are going to create, fine, I'll just take in this way, say I'll say create user, I'll say create user, for the purpose to act as a manager. Just remember this. Okay, so after creating the user to work on Fusion expense, to have a complete privileges to access expense related functionality, what we have to do is, we have to assign the roles. Okay, assign, say, data roles user. Which users will assign? Basically we require for Fusion user only, because Fusion user is going to work on the expense report creation process. But anyway, nothing wrong if you go and assign for new user. The new user name will create as a Fusion manager, so we'll assign to both. For these two users we'll assign, and we'll run LDAP job. Okay, then once we're done with that, so we have to make sure that which user is going to create the expense report. Which user is going to create the expense report? For that user we have to set default expense account. Okay, say set default expense account, and finally we'll create the relationship. Okay, create employee and supervisor relationship. It's just very simple. We'll go and assign that for which employee who is the supervisor, that's all. Okay, so we'll do these basic setups, and to set up the approvals, finally we'll go and set the approvals. We'll talk about approval simply as I'm going to specify setup approvals. So let me write approvals. Which approvals we are going to set? We are going to set supervisory approvals. Okay, we are going to set supervisory approval. How to create the supervisory approval also we'll see in this case. Okay, you should go with that approach only. Fine. That I'll show you in the system how to do that. So basically these are the setups we have to complete. Okay. So once we're done with this, these are the basic setups which we do one time. And as a process, what we'll do is, okay, sorry. A process, what we'll do is, we'll create expense report and we'll submit for approval. Here we are taking the case as two users. One is Fusion, other one is Fusion. Let me change this name. I'll take the name as Fusion 1. Okay. Fusion user is going to act as a just employee. Fusion 1 is going to act as a manager. That's it. Let's take this relation. Okay. So create expense report and submit for approval. We will be creating user called as Fusion. Okay. And the manager will approve. Then finally we'll see Fusion 1 will approve the expense report. We'll see this case. Okay. The Fusion is going to create expense report and so it will be submitted for approval. The Fusion 1 will approve the expense report. Finally, we'll process it. Okay, we have a particular job to run that. Simply now I'm going to write it as process expense, what do we call that? Basically we call the reimbursement, right? There will be on job also will be the same name almost. Process expense reimbursement. There'll be one job with a similar name. Okay, I'll say submit. The exact name it would be something like Fusion. I mean process expense reimbursement and cash advances. Okay, because through Fusion expense you can give the advance to employee. Okay, you can give the advance to employee. That function also we have in the Fusion expense. That is reason that for to create the cash advances or to create the invoice in the payables against expense report, the same job will be using. We'll see that in the system, which job or the exactly job name. As I remember, that is process expense reimbursement and cash advances, I guess. We'll see that. We'll submit this job, then system will create. System creates payment request in AP. Against expense report, system will create the payment request in AP. We know in when you do the customer refunds, against the refund, system will create the payment request in the payables. In the same way, when you process the expense reports also, against the expense report, system will create the payment request in payables. That you can just validate and you can account it. Finally, you can make the payment. That's it. Okay, we'll see. This is the process we are going to test now. Before that, these are the setups we have to complete. We'll go and see one by one. Okay, the first setup is configure system options. Let's go into it. Let's do this setups from the project, Fusion implementation project. Sorry. So what is this? So configure system options. So when you say system options, exactly task would be like something expenses system options. Search with the task term called as expenses system options. Task name is manage expenses system options. Click on this and click on go to task icon. So this is a very common setup for all the business units by default. But we can go and set which is very specific to our business unit also. Okay, we can do that, but by default for all business unit these setups will be applicable. See here. So based on your preference, how you are going to process expense reports. I'm sorry. Okay, how you want to process, how you want to set the controls, or how you want to provide the defaults when you are working on expense reporting report process. You can set all these controls. You see here, we have a different classification for these controls or say options. User options for expense report and corporate options for expense reports and processing options for expense report. For user specific and uh, corporate options means corporate card process purpose and processing, how will be processing the expenses. Based on that also you can set your own preferences. You can go through it when you are doing the setups. It's very simple. By just looking at that you can understand. Enable payment method, that means here what the title, user options for expense report. When user is creating the expense report, so if you want to allow the user to select the payment method, you can set to yes, otherwise set to no. In that case, user cannot select their preference. By default, whatever we set, that only will be applicable. The same way, allow reimbursement currency selection. If you want to allow the user to select the expense need to be reimbursed in which currency, that you can set. And enable attachments, both header level and lines level, are only header only, or no attachments required when a user is going to create the expense report. All these preferences you can set. You may go through all these options. Okay, just you can go through it and you can get some understanding on that. But here the very important option I want to share with you is pay expense report through payables or some third party. Now definitely we are going to process this expense. Okay, and we are going to interface to payables only. Make sure that this pay expense report through, pay expense reports, means payments, will be making the payments for expense reports through payables only. You can select so that your system will allow you to interface that information to payables, otherwise you cannot. Okay, so you may go through all these options when you are setting this. Okay, but the key point here you have to understand, pay expense report through payables, you select it since we are going to test that similar process. And here you can set prefix, whatever the expense report number system will be creating. For that, what should be the prefix you can set, but it's not mandatory. If you set some prefix, that it will take prefix before it go and create the number, otherwise directly it will create the expense report numbering. Here let's give the anything you can give. I can say fusion. Okay, anything you can just give, or else I'll set E. Every expense report number starts with E so that I can understand that is expense related. And this is a common setup for all the business units. Sorry. Okay, this is a common setup for all the business units, and you can go and set for your business unit however you require. Simple. We'll go and set for our business unit also. Here I just change this number, so I'm going to save it. I mean prefix I changed to E, so I'm saving. Done. Now if you want to set for your business unit, click on create. Anyway, this is all you can default. You don't need to go and set all these now. It's a simple process. Okay, select your business unit. Okay, just click on create, select your business unit. Okay, our BU name is Fusion US business unit. And see here, by default system is taking this value. Use setup from all business units means whatever we have that specification for all business units, the same you want to use, you can use it, or else you can go and set how you need. I'm going to accept what already just predefined at all business units level. And other point here we have to understand here, let me go to that option, employee liability account. Okay, employee liability account. Use setup from Oracle Fusion payables. That means when you create expense report, system will create the accounting entry, right? So whatever the expense items we have, those all will get debited. So the system has to create the liability account. And if you set this option, it will take whatever the account we given in the common options. In the common options, we give an accounts payable account. That account it will be taking. Otherwise, what you can do is you can give your own account. You just whatever you can set the default account here. You may use some different liability account in case of uh, expense reports. In that case, you can set here. Okay, it's not mandatory. If you want to use the same account which you are using for standard suppliers, okay, that you can use it. System will derive from the common options. Otherwise, here you can override. I'll say company and department. You may create an account for something like employee. In this environment, I think this account is there. Yeah, employee payables. I'm choosing this employee payables. And I'll say okay. Now if I create expense report, system will be debiting based on the expense items we have. Expense item specific accounts it will debit, and credit account it will take this account instead of taking from common options. Okay, so this is how you can override this setup. Okay, and I selected here business unit, and if you want to override anything you can override which is specific to your business unit, and here you may override this account also. Then say save and close. Okay, then click on save and close. This is all about system options. Now we'll go and create the expense report template. Here only you can scroll it up. Here you can see manage expense report templates. Click on go to task icon. Then click on create. Just give the name. I'll say Fusion travel template. So I'm providing the same as a description, and select your business unit. You are creating this template for which BU. Fusion US business unit, and you can list out all the expense types, the items. Click on create. I'll say airfare. Just select relevant account. Yes, we have airfare account. And I'll say save and create another. I'll say food expense. Select category. So we have meals and provide meals account. Sorry, there is some background noise from my side. In the next institute, I think they are moving some chairs and all. I'm sorry for that. So here just say save and close. We added these two. Now you can set this as a default template for our business unit. Then say save and close. This is how you may create a number of templates, how many you require as per the process. So we're done with that. Let me mark the same. We complete this setup and we completed this. Now we have to create the one new user who is going to act as a manager. As we discussed here, the name should be Fusion 1. Okay. And one more point here. Okay, let me just at the time of definition I'll talk about it. We will go and create the new user. Okay, say for example this user. Okay, so whatever the manager user you are creating, okay, whatever the manager user you are creating, that user creation date should be same or before this Fusion user. Now in the current case, for this user we are going to make Fusion 1 as a manager. That means we are going to already Fusion user is already existed, and Fusion 1 user we are going to create. If you go on to create Fusion 1 user with a today date, you cannot make Fusion 1 as a manager to Fusion user. Okay, because basically it should work, but the functionality we have in that way, the reason we know, like we have a data effective function in HRMS in the case of EBS and Fusion HCM, because of the date effective function which we have in the HCM as a one of the future, because of that some function relevant reasons, it won't work if you are going to create the Fusion 1 user as a user with a today date. If you create with a today date, that user cannot be assigned to Fusion where the Fusion user already created in past. Say Fusion user is created this month first. Okay, the Fusion user is acting as employee. Today you are going to create Fusion 1 to make that Fusion user as a manager for Fusion user. Okay, Fusion 1 user you want to make as a manager for Fusion user. So if you are creating the Fusion 1 with a today date, means 17th, you cannot go and specify Fusion 1 is manager to Fusion user. Reason Fusion user is created and first, and Fusion 1 is today date. But of course the manager, today you hide the Fusion 1 as a manager, you may change the manager to Fusion, and now the new manager for Fusion user is maybe Fusion 1. That's how the logic should work, but application point of it won't work when we create. But there is some solution from HCM people. If you create by mistake, okay, just for testing, if you create, you can contact the HCM people. They even, if you are creating with the today date, they can make this Fusion 1 will be available to assign to Fusion user as a manager. But by default, as a functional point of when we are creating, I just always recommend to create the manager user, whatever the new user you create whom you want to make as a manager, with the same or before date on which date you created Fusion user. Is this point is clear? If you have any question, you can ask me. This is very important, otherwise you cannot find the user even you create in the system. Any doubt on this? Any query? Is it clear what I'm trying to explain?
Lakshman,
Yep.
yeah, a manager can start date can be later than employee start date. Why do we have this condition?
That's what I'm saying. Yes, it should be like that, but they made solution like this. Okay, but even if you create after employee date, employee is created on first, but you are creating Fusion 1 today, system should accept, but it won't work in our environment, not only in our environment, in our product. Okay, our product. If you want to create user with the today, this Fusion 1 with the today date, and if you want to make it to work, you have to contact HCM people. They'll be doing something. I still remember in our project the same happened. We checked and they did something. I didn't ask them what they did and they didn't tell me anything, but this is how it works. But They said like it generally by default it won't work. So that is a information which I have experience as a experience. So by default it won't work. That's it. Why it won't work, I cannot answer to that. We have to speak with HCM people only. This is how we have a functionality that I can share. Okay, but ideally it should work, but it's not working. But what I'm thinking is this may conflict the day tracking functionality. We know day tracking where HCM people will be tracking each and every changes against the employee with a specific date, what changes done and what corrections, what updates did, and which additional information added, which information is removed, etc., etc. That function we have. I think this may conflict with that function. That is the reason Oracle is not given in that way. That's what I am just assuming. I'm not very sure on this point, but I want to share this point with you. That's the reason I'm talking about it. Okay, any questions on this, please, which I can answer? I will answer. Okay, fine, that's all. Just this is a simple point you have to understand. Ideally it should work, but it won't work. Okay, and even if you create, by default it won't work. You speak with HCM people, they'll do some update from the employee record side, it will work. But when we are testing, just do follow this practice. Always create manager user definition on or before employee user definition, then only it will work. Fine, now we are going to create the user for to a user who can act as a manager. I'm going to create user with a name called as fusion 1. Okay, let's go to manage users. So go to navigator. Sorry. Go to navigator and under my team section, we have a task called as manage users. Click on manage users. Sorry. Okay, seems for instance is a bit slow today. Let me refresh this once again. Manage users. Yeah, it's opening. So we'll create the new user for manager. Just click on create. So I want to give the name as fusion 1. The email mandatory, so I'm giving fusion1gmail.com. And this is very important here. Okay, hire date, it should be okay on or before the employee date, but ideally it's not correct what we are discussing, but this is how system is behaving as per standard functionality. Okay, so that is the reason what I want to do is I want to make instead of 17 16. Okay, John 17 2016 hire date happened. Okay, this is a hire date for this employee, take in that way. Now there won't be an issue because we created our user maybe so very just month back, I guess. So what is the username you require for this employee? Okay, the same. Of course, here say generally we have to write the employee name instead of going with a very just normal naming convention and all. I'm just taking this for a testing convenience. Okay, username and uncheck this. Send username and password. Select person type as employee. So we know by default only these two values, these all are created by somebody who is working on HCM for their testing. Person types they can add as of however they require, how many they require. So select person type as employee, legal employer, select your legal entity. Say okay. Select business unit. So that's all. Then say save and close. Now we'll assign the data roles to these two users. But basically we don't require for a Fusion 1. Fusion 1 is going to act as a manager, but we are not going to test Fusion 1. Means manager is going to create the purchase expense report. The expense report will be created by Fusion user. If you want to assign any roles to create expense report and to go and verify in terms of audit point of view, the roles may be required for a Fusion user, but you can assign to both or only one. There won't be an issue, but ideally just we have to go and assign the roles that we'll see now. Okay, anyway, for this user we have to set the password also. We have to reset the password. So we have to navigate to IDM. You know the task name is manage users, or you may go with create implementation users. That is another task which you can use. Anything you can use. It's so simple. We can go with manage job roles. Okay, as a mandatory, first we'll go and assign the roles to the Fusion user who is going to act as an employee who can create the expense reports, and you may give the provision of auditing those reports. Okay, or else audit privileges you can give to only manager. However you want to set, you can do that. Let's go and do that. Username is Fusion. The first one, select, go to roles, select roles tab, click on assign. Basically there will be three roles for Fusion expense with a mapping of our business unit. That means data roles. So just search like this, expense percentage, your business unit name, Fusion US, search. These are the roles: expense audit manager, expense auditor, expense manager. You know very well how to verify in which role what functions we have, right? So that you can try if you want to understand which role give which privileges. Assign these three roles. Now we'll go and reset the password. We'll set the password for the user which we created. That is Fusion 1. Select Fusion 1. Set password. So fusion one is manager. Okay, the manager also will create the expense report site whenever required, and this manager has to report to his manager for approval. Yeah. So by taking that point into consideration, just I'm going to assign the roles to this user also. Okay, always assign the employee role also, so that from this user will be able to submit the requests. Now we'll go and submit the LDAP job. Okay, we'll submit that LDAP job. Just type any test here, tab out, LDAP, search, select, retrieve latest LDAP changes. Let's say okay. Let's say okay. Okay, it will take some time. Anyway, immediately we are not going to work on those privileges which we get through these roles. Okay, but as a process, let's submit. Done, completed. So we assign the roles for this both users. Now the both users can create the expense reports, and both has a audit privileges also. This LDAP job also is submitted. Now we'll go and set which user is going to create expense report. For that user, we have to set default expense account. Okay, we have to set default expense account. We'll go and do it. But these two users will set, but for one user is enough for us. So for this fusion user reason, in our case now, whatever we are going to test in that process, only this user is going to create the expense report. Which user is creating expense report? For that user only, it is a mandatory. We have to set default expense account. So go to manage users. It's a mandatory how to set, otherwise you cannot create expense report. Okay. So manage users. And search for your user from here. Username is Fusion. Find your user. The first one, right? Select this user definition, means employee. Then go to actions. We have to select this record first by clicking on this select. Go to actions. Here we have one option called as manage expense information. Okay, find employee and select employee, go to actions, select manage expense information and click on that and provide address for expense reimbursement. Fusion address. Address got selected. Now here we have to provide the default expense account. Let's see, is there any employee expense? Yes, we have employee expense account. Just you can select it. And you want to remit the payment to this employee in which site, the address, office or home, you can select. I'm selecting office. Expense check sent to which address? Office address. Then say save and close. Okay, the same way, if you want to allow this manager also to book the expense, you can provide that information. But now anyway we are not going to test that, so I'm not adding. Okay, that. But which employee is going to book expense report? It's a mandatory setup. Just remember, now in current example we are going to create expense report with only Fusion, so that is the reason I'm setting default expense account for Fusion only. I'm not setting for Fusion 1, where I'm not going to create expense report. Now we have to create the employee and the supervisor relationship. How? It's very simple. So here we have employee. Okay, here we have options also to go through it, but not required. Directly you can click on employee name. Just click on employee name. Our employee name is, or say username is Fusion. Now here you have to give the manager name. Okay, so for this Fusion user or Fusion employee, who is the manager? Select here. Click on this drop down, click on search. Name is Fusion 1. You will get here name if you create on or before the employee hire date, otherwise you don't find. Just click on search, you can find it here now. And say okay. This is how we can specify the manager for employee. So save and close. Completed that. Now we'll go and set the approvals. Approvals we can set from BPM. We'll navigate to BPM and just BPM approval. When you are setting BPM approval, just always use this Mozilla only. Don't try with the Chrome, and the function is not working when you try with the Chrome. The nodes and all not responding when we are trying to update some kind of participant specification and all. So always just use, especially when you are working on BPM, use this Mozilla. In other all cases, it will work. The Chrome or any other browser will support, but use this Mozilla in case of BPM related task. Okay. Now just click on this. Okay, navigate to BPM. So go to functional setup manager first. Search for the task called as Just to navigate, I am searching with this task approval groups for financials. Okay, I'm not going to create approval group. It will take us to the BPM page. That is the reason I'm searching. So we are not going to create an approval group now. In the for this employee this expense related, we are going to test supervisory approval configuration. So go to task configuration. Here you can see all the workflows. You scroll little down, and here you can see the task configuration. Fin EXM workflow expense approvals. Fin financials EXM means expense management workflow expense approvals. Select this approval workflow. Select it. Take some time. It will be just okay. We selected this task configuration or workflow, and just go with edit mode. Click on edit and go to assignees. Okay, by default you may in the fresh environment you may see all are active mode. Here also you can see the same. You have many nodes here. Okay, all are active. You may see in the vertical layout also. Otherwise, okay, we have different nodes here. So expense report owner, and here expense report, here cost center based expense and project manager related workflow and expense approvals. So different nodes we have to support relevant process. Okay, now what I'm going to do is first we'll disable all the nodes. Okay, disable all the nodes. What we'll do is we'll go with the serial approval in this case. So I think where we have the serial approval expense report here. This is a parallel. Yep. This is a serial approval. Participants will go with this, except this node will go and disable all the nodes. We know very well how to disable it. The same process will follow and disable it. So click on the node, go to advanced, say ignore participant. So this will be deactivated. Select advanced, ignore. We are going to use this node, so I'm not going to disable it. Select other nodes and disable. Select and say ignore participant. Let's see, is there any other node? No. Select, so advanced. Okay, fine. We just ignored all the nodes except one which we want to use. Then say save and commit. Okay, just give me 1 second. I want to have some glass of water, please. Fine. Okay, so we disabled all the nodes except one. Now we'll go and create the employee supervisor. Just now click on edit, go to assignees, click on this assignees tab. Now you can see all the nodes are disabled, right? So I'll expand this. Okay. Now we'll go on to create the employee supervisor approval rules by using this the serial approval participants node. Okay, just click on this the dot icon, just click on go to rules. Sorry. So we know in every node there will be some default rule which is predefined by Oracle. So just make sure that that is deactivated. This is a one predefined rule. Just expand this and say expand here. Okay, it's deactivated. And we have another rule also here which is created by someone. So I'm just unchecking that also. Okay, once you do the changes, I recommend just you can click on validate. Of course, we are not creating our own rule, existing rules only we are deactivating, but nothing wrong if you just click on validate. But basically, it's not required. You don't need to click on validate and you don't need to verify because you are not changing something, just you are deactivating. Once you deactivate, generally you can go and save it. Okay. Save and say commit. But you try to complete this. It's not mandatory to do. Later you can do it. Okay, but I recommend to do this so that there won't be any issues. Okay. Any questions?
Lakshman,
Yeah.
Lakshman, in the
Yep.
approval, like, can we define the approval limits here at each employee level? Amounts. Let's say a manager can approve only 10,000 and his manager can approve like 100,000, like that.
The through rule only you can define it through rule. The see manage each person level if you want to create for each person you create an approved group. Okay, in EBS also we have similar concept, right? In purchasing, we'll create approved group that will be mapping at job level and all. In the same way, here also you can do at job level, position level. Apart from that, people level, resource level also you can do it. In that case, for each person, create an approved group, and group level you can go and set the limit by defining the separate rule for each and every group. Nothing but person. That's how you can do it. Okay.
So where do we define the approval groups? It's in BPM or
This is the first session you are attending.
no approval groups?
No, no, no. I'm asking you, is it the first session for you?
No.
Then you should know by this time. In payables, I already covered approval groups. I
Yeah,
think
that's true.
I think you missed out. You may know who is speaking. Venkat. Venkat,
Yes,
we
yes.
done right.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just asking. Yes.
yeah, the
So
same process. Same
we-
process. Same process.
Okay.
If you want to see, just let me give you some overview. Here we have approval groups, right?
Yeah.
Here you can create the approval group. Same process for any application. Approval group definition remains same process. Okay, since for each person you want to set a certain limit, create group with only one person. That's how you can manage. Okay, I'm going to task configuration. So here the workflow name is this FinEXM. Okay, financials EXM means expense management workflow expense approval. Select it. Then go to assignees. Already just this edit checkbox. Edit already we just selected. Then go to assignees. Now this is a serial participant node we have. Then go to this. Go to rule. Let's create our own rule. Add rule. I'll give the name as Fusion Expense. We are creating this rule for Fusion Expense. That to supervisor. Not required, just no need to write that much detail level. We know very well we are creating. So expand this. See, when we are creating these approvals, we can use the different expressions. Okay, we can use here different expressions in if clause. So earlier we used just in case of payables if invoice amount is okay same or less than so and so, people can approve that we give an approved group. And same way here also you can specify if invoice expense report amount is more than so and so amount, it has to be approved by so and so people, that you can specify. But the I mean here I'm going with some different expression now. I'll say one, the expression if one is one. I'll go with this expression. That this expression meaning is, I'll go with the constant and I'll talk about it. No issues. The expression here I selected one is one. The meaning of one is one means always trigger approval. If anybody is going to create the approvals, sorry, if anybody is going to create the expense report, system should trigger approvals. That is the meaning of that. When system one is meaning, it will trigger the uh, approvals. When it's triggering, it has to route to whom, how it has to work, that you can create in then condition. Okay, now we'll go with the supervisory. Okay, just then click on this drop down option, say add approver, and we'll go with the supervisory. Select supervisory. Okay, see the list builder, since we selected supervisory, it is selecting as a same. And response type by default is required, it's selecting. Number of levels. Okay, number of levels. So generally in case of employee supervisor, number of levels should be one only. That means employee will create that, it will go to the supervisor. Okay, in case of other hierarchies you can set a number of levels, but here the number of levels we always use one, since directly there will be only one level approval, like employee will create, his supervisor will approve, that's it. So set number of levels as a one. And starting participant, okay, just click on this search icon. So starting participant means the person who is going to create the expense report. Okay, for that expense report who has to give the approval? Supervisor has to give the approval. Okay, supervisor has to give the approval. Here you can select a reference user as a task creator. Task creator is nothing but the person who is creating the expense report. Okay, from that person it has to go to his supervisor. That is the meaning of it. So I'll say here it's just creating this, create like this. It has to be exactly what how I'm going to write it. Task dot creator. This dot creator C should be small. Use the same string, otherwise it won't work. In task T should be capital, ASK dot C should be small, creator. Okay, task creator. Use this expression. I mean use this user reference user as a task creator. I'm not giving for so and so person. When so and so person is creating, it has to trigger to so and so person. I'm not saying simple just a rule of, so starting participant. I'm saying doesn't matter who is the person. If somebody is creating the expense report, it has to go to his manager. That's what I'm saying. Task creator is nothing but can be any user. Okay, if any user is going to create expense report, that will goes to his supervisor only. So that's what I'm saying. And as per this rule definition, it's a mandatory you have to give top participant, but there won't be any use of top participant if you don't set this top participant, it won't work. See here, once you provide these parameters information, here it should be get manager. By default it will be get manager only. List builder will be by default supervisory, and only you have to give reference user as a task creator. Say okay, and once you say okay, here you can see that what system is it's taking hierarchy builder, get manager means supervisor, task creator, this expression it will take automatically. And top participant, click on search. Top participant you select here as a get user. you can provide reference user. In the organization, who is the highest person who has approval authorities? That person you can provide as a top participant, but this is not going to be useful in the process, but in terms of configuration this should be given, otherwise this approvals won't work. That's it. So when you are giving that reference user, in double quotes you can give the username. Our username is Fusion 1. I am taking Fusion user. Fusion 1 is manager to Fusion user. Other side I am taking is the highest uh, I mean participant in the approval process. That's it. This expression you have to, this is how you reference you have to provide. Then say okay. Done. And auto action enable, yes, it should be false only because it has to be done through manual process. Auto action null, and same rule name system is taken. Done. That's all. So this is how we'll be setting the employee supervisor approval hierarchy. Okay, so now since we create a new rule, we know what we have to do. We have to submit for validation. Click on validate. Yeah, just go and verify what is the status of this. Fine, no validation errors or warnings found. Good. Now say save. And commit. Just refreshing. Okay, done. Approvals also be different. That's how, this is a simple process how to set employee supervisor. Now next step is, as a Fusion user we'll go and create the expense report. Sorry, it's not required. I'm closing. I'll just refresh once. Go to navigator. Under this section like about me, you'll have a expenses. Click on expenses. Okay, when you're just here, so there is one video also they given how to create the expense report. Okay, so you may just play and you can go through it if you want. So I think this is available in YouTube also. Just 1 minute 36 seconds. Okay, we don't need to go through it now. Okay, let's go and create it. Okay, here we have a task called as create expense report. Okay, click on expense report. Purpose, what is the purpose of this expense report? I'll say just prefix I'm giving as Fusion. So travel purpose, and if you have some attachments related to that bills, whatever you may attach here. Just I'm enabling this. I have read and accept all corporate travel expense policies and all. I'm enabling this, and click on this create expense items we are going to add. How many expense items we created? Only I think we created 2. So by selecting 1 or 2, or you can create it. That's what we created: airfare and food. I'm selecting airfare. And if you want to provide expense location where you incur that expense, the location also you can provide, but not mandatory. Expense amount for airfare, say 5,000. Sorry, $1,000. And I'll say save and to create another. And food, and I'll give $100. just tab out. That's it. Now you can say save and close. Okay, once you save and close, okay, here you can see all this information. This is the expense report header, and these are the items and all. We know for each item we given the account also at the time of template definition. And if you want to see, before you go and submit for approval, if you want to see this notification, this approval request goes to whom, okay, that you can see from by clicking on status. Here status you can see saved. Click on saved status. It takes some time to open. There you can see this will be routed to whom for approval, because we defined the employee supervisor approval hierarchy. For this Fusion user, manager is Fusion 1. It will show that information. The notification will go to Fusion 1, since Fusion 1 is supervisor for this user. It takes some time. No, here it definitely takes time. Just wait for some time. See, it is showing it's parallel. So the notification is going to, because see the reason in the pop-up, you can see the reason. The reason is Fusion expense, that is the approved rule. Because of Fusion expense approved rule, it is routing. That's what it's showing. Assign is, it is got assigned to, this is forwarded to Fusion 1, because for Fusion user, Fusion 1 is the supervisor. The reason you can see, reason is nothing but rule name. Because of which rule this notification, this process is working, that is nothing but reason. That's it. Then you can say okay, just submit. Click on submit. Say okay. Now here you can see it's pending from approval. Expense reports, so only one we have. This is the expense report number. See here, system is taking the prefix as E. Within the system options I given, prefix should be E. So 2 items we have within that, and the status is pending manager approval. And now what we'll do is we'll log in from this other browser. I'm logging as a Fusion 1 user. Here we have to reset the password for this user, right? Submit. Now here you can see there will be notification approval request saying that action is required. So here in the bell icon you can see that. Click on this. You can see action required. Okay. So this is the notification we are getting from this user. Just click on this. Not this one. Okay, this is a different one. Okay, this is nothing, just ignore this. Normally it is just, since we did that employee supervisory, it is giving that kind of message. There's some additional information required for employee and all, but not that notification. We'll get notification. Yeah, here you can see completed task. No, not this one. We'll get it. Just let's wait for some time. These all because we create a relation, right? Just employee supervisor. Because of that, these notifications we are getting, which is related to HCM related information. Why it is showing pending of manager approval? Error. It has to show it is going to whom. Just now it was showing right. Right now it's again it's like this. Okay, seems to this something again. I'll go to this workflow. Just now we just when we verified it was showing it is rooted, but now again it is showing that as some error. So approval groups. See, when we are dealing with these workflows and all, definitely this sort of experience we come across. Okay, even everything fine, sometimes it won't work. So when you go and just do some changes, again it will work. Changes in the sense you won't change it to the same again. You will try to redo. That's how it will be working. Let's see. This is disabled, right? Yeah, this is also disabled. Correct, everything is fine. Don't know why it is behaving like this. Oh, here there is some, I think, some space is left or what. Let's see. It's good, fine. Fine, everything is fine. Just it is behaving in that way, that's all. Okay, anyway, we'll fix it. Just log out. Now we'll try to create expense report. Fine, we'll create no issues. So go to actions, create expense report. Expense report. See, there is no issue, just system is behaving, that's all. Just anyway, yeah, I'll just show you the result. Say 1000. Submit. Here the approved list it has to show. Earlier it was showing when we click on save and all. There is no meaning why it is behaving like this. Okay, what I'll do is I'll delete and I'll create once again. Just select here and say delete. So create, just click on this. Supervisory level is 1. Correct.
Lakshman,
Yeah, please.
can you look into this that list item? You choose the ease,
No,
right?
no. Yeah, same. Correct. That is correct.
Yeah, ease or ease equal both are same here.
No, is correct. Is correct.
Okay.
Creator. Now see, rule is 100% correct. There is nothing wrong. Just some system behavior. That's all. We don't need to check what we did wrong. Something. Everything's fine.
And also, we didn't choose the checkbox for the
What?
rule.
What checkbox?
Before the one, we have the checkbox, right?
Okay, select and say okay. Yeah, tell me what is that?
Before one, we have the checkbox, right?
Before
The
one.
rule. No, not on the rule. About then, yeah,
Why we have to
that
select
one.
that? Not required.
Is not required?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. See, rule is correct. No need to validate this. Rule is 100% correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just sort it out. Nothing wrong, nothing wrong. Everything 100% fine. See, in this environment also, just I did testing also, that was working fine. I'll submit. See, earlier just when we created and clicked on save, I mean, that information, it was triggering. Later it is not working. That also we can notice. Right. See, when you click on this, it is showing here. It's showing here very clearly. It's the list builder is working. See, approve list I can see here. But once I submit for approval, in that approval list also the same should appear. But I don't see that. So where it is going and all. So it's clearly it is mentioning here. The reason is fusion expense. So everything is fine. So sometimes it behaves like this. We don't need to worry about it. We don't need to doubt the rule which we created. Okay, just I'll click on this report, and if I click on the same approval list, it should display. It is going something wrong. It is showing that notification is going to the so and so targeted person, but it's not happening.
Lakshman, is there any way that we can be able to see that, like, where is this notification hanging,
Sorry,
like testing in the past?
sorry.
Like release 12, we can be able to test where that particular one, that expense report, we can give a expense report ID and we can be able to validate that.
Now here the
Can we do that?
issues and all you can see from here. You can go to home. Here you can find if there is any error and all. Here it will be showing in all tasks. But here nothing wrong. Just it is showing one way, other way it is not routing. That's it. There is a problem with this. To administration. Okay, it won't take more than 2 minutes. We'll create one more rule. Okay. Because nothing wrong, nothing same as it is. We have to do it. We did, and it's everything's fine working. So I'll just go and deactivate it, and I'll create the new one. Search. Say constant q1. Say okay. Go to then condition. Level 1 I'm giving. Starting participant. Supervisory. Task creator. Say okay. And say top participant. Say get user. And here I'll give double quotes fusion 1. That's all. Let's go verify anything wrong with this. Nothing wrong. Save it. So deactivated, yes. So active. So one is one. Task creator, yep. Fusion one, yes. List builder. Fine, everything is okay. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Let's test now. Take anything or say. See, when you click on save, here it is showing the same way it should work, but it's perfectly working. See here, everything you can see that approval list. If you submit, it goes like this. It goes like this. It will go to Fusion 1 because the list builder is triggering properly. The same you can see here. The assign is Fusion 1 and all, everything is proper. But when you click on submit, I think it is going with some unknown understanding. That's what happening. No issues. Okay, we will check once again this. If it is not working, it may work after some time. I can show you in the tomorrow session. No changes required. You no need to doubt on that configuration. Okay, as it is. Okay, it will work as it is. So now done, we submitted. Go to this user. Just log out and log in. Billing manager approval by ratio. We submitted right. So nothing wrong with the configuration. Okay, maybe just let's see. Even system is not showing any error with this. Here, if any error related to that, it should come here. So, but we don't have any error also. If we go to home, the errors will come here as my tasks here. Everything you can see, but there is no error and it's not happening. So maybe sometimes it may take some time and all. Let's assume in that way. Okay. Hope you can see in the tomorrow session. Okay, but this is a configuration. You don't worry about any other thing. If something is missing or nothing, just as is, just how we have to implement. We did that. Okay, so it should work, but it's not happening. Here, when you create expense report, you can see that also, right? Where it is going to trigger and all. Everything is showing, but finally it is not working. Okay, so that's it. That's all for today, and we'll connect in tomorrow's session, and we'll continue from here. But just I may on this call for 5 more minutes to verify once again the same. Basically for expense manager, we don't need default expense account. Let me set and try that also. Because when this employee is creating expense, then only it's required, but basically it's not required. But I'm just for testing this to verify. Nothing here. So given manager, that is the reason it was triggering as a manager also in that. We have vision 1 only, yes. So it's giving clear information. This is what we configured. It's just showing system is going to send the expense report. See, expense report serial approval participant is Fusion 1. Yes, this is correct. I think the system is taking some time to get updated. That's it. Other than that, you no need to think on this too much. So hope after some time it will be working. We'll test it. Okay. See here it is showing that clearly this has to go to whom? Fusion 1. That's it. This is what we configured. Here also you can see the information. Assign Fusion 1 and reason is Fusion. This is the rule we created. Just now we created approve rule as a Fusion. That's it. There's no other proof we require for this, but it should go, but it's not happening in this. We'll see. I guess it will take some time to happen that. Okay, let's wait for some time. It should work because it's not ending with any error or it's not going ahead. Just it may take some time. We'll see that. Fine, we'll connect tomorrow and we'll see.